he lies so much that he forgets the timelines and the numbers. A lot of the things, or if not most of the things that he has shared, his successes and everything are all kind of like smoke and mirrors. There are egomaniac tendencies, thinking he's always right, thinking he's the one, like he's gonna be the most famous man, using conspiracy to iron in what he thinks is right. If you use fake successes to sell your success, you're basically lying. And people are looking up to you because you had all the successes. So a lot of people are still kind of blinded. And that's something that I feel extremely sorry about, because you're looking up to someone who's not who you think he is.
Looking at your future, what do you want to do now? So when did the trust start to break down between you and Luke?
I think it was the moment that he really got exposed hard last year on Twitter, right? And when we actually was standing beside him, supporting him through this PR crisis on Twitter. And after which we had a meeting about it, right? And by the time like the whole PR crisis was already kind of resolved, right? And we were kind of like helping him, supporting him, guiding him through this like crisis. And when this whole saga was kind of like behind us, right? We had a meeting and he was really upset at us because we didn't came up and say, oh, look, Belmar's legit, right? And he was blaming it, oh, where were you guys? Like, you guys were never there for me and whatnot. And I was like, oh my God, how ungrateful this person was, right? For all the help. I stayed up overnight. It came up with the PR strategy for him to type through this, right? And that was like, action speaks louder than words. But I think he was expecting, as he said, he's like, oh, you guys didn't post on your IG, on your socials that, oh, look, Belmar's legit. I was like, bro, come on, right? You know I was there for you, right? But when this happened, it really questioned, like, who's the person that I was really working with, right? Because business partners is like your wife or your husband, right? It's someone that you want to spend a lot of time with. And if this person is not grateful or appreciative of what you have done for them, then that's really a big red flag from what I see. So the moment he said that, me and my brother's like, oh my God, like, is this really someone that we want to spend time together building something, right? So that's kind of when it all got started.
What was the root of that PR issue?
I think people starts realizing like his whole come up story is bullshit, right? And I think, to be honest, we were fed the same lies of his come up. And honestly, I was like very inspired by his story initially, because that was exactly what I thought it was. Right? Like, oh, $300 in a suitcase came over. And that was the exact same story. Even when I challenged him, after he got exposed, I was like, bro, like, is what you're saying online, is it true? He said, oh yeah, that's true. Like, oh, my uncle, blah, 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 right? And all that stuff, right? Even when I questioned him, he still stand firm on what he said, right? So that was kind of like what it got started. And what happened was, like, just to elaborate a little bit more, right? People were questioning his last name, right? Luke Tice, Luke Belmar. But honestly, like, Luke Belmar is also in his family. I think one of his grandfather or his father's name, right? But Tice is also his family name. So that is not a big issue at all, to be honest, right? The people, the celebrities, they have their own, kind of last names or whichever. That's pretty common. I don't think that's a big deal. But I think what people really like was unhappy about was like how he faked his whole come up story. Right, you didn't come from like a extremely poor family, right? Right, and the other thing was like, I think people start catching the lies that he kind of like said online, and a lot of kind of like bullshit people starts piecing up together. For example, he said, oh, he didn't go to college, but people say, oh, like people start digging out and researched, oh, you went to college, but you shouldn't college so much. Then why do you go to college, right? So I think people starts to notice, like, he's not who he preached to be online, right? And I think there's a lot of discrepancies and things are not adding up. His numbers, right? His experience, right? His come up story. Everything that he has said online was intentionally engineered by himself, right? To make himself look extremely good, extremely successful, right? To kind of like paint the picture that, oh, wow, hustler. I'm such a hustler. Right, I've been through such tough times. Sure, you might have gone through certain tough moments in your life, right? Not going to discredit that from him, but I think it's really what about authenticity? Like, this guy preaches so much about God, about authenticity. And I think it kind of rubs off the wrong ways with some people. And people start wanting to understand what's really the truth behind what he's sharing online.
Before we move any further, I have one short question to ask you. Have you been enjoying these episodes so far? Because if you have, I would truly appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel to help more business owners grow their online business today.
What was it in the beginning when you initially met him in the early stages? The way that you thought he was versus the way that you perceive him to be now? Like, why is there such a big delta between the beginning and to now?
I think, to be honest, in hindsight right now, right, I think I let friendship and trust got the better of me, right? And I think initially what I saw in him was like an ambitious young man, someone who had like clear goals, ambitious, and of course a very charismatic way of like portraying himself and articulating his thoughts, right? So I kind of thought like, wow, if like initially I would remind myself like when I got started, it's kind of tough, right? No one's there, there's no online community and all that stuff. I was just thinking like, whoa, what if when I started, there's someone like me that kind of like, shared more stuff, help people in some ways. And Luke kind of just came by at the right time, at the point of time. But what changed across the times is like, when you get into a relationship, doesn't matter if it's your boyfriend, your girlfriend, I'm sure everyone has like bad experiences in one point in life, right? And it's kind of like, I like to use this example. It's like initially you're going through the honeymoon period, right? Everything's great. Everyone puts on their best self, like probably inauthentic in some ways, right? But as you start getting closer, right, some gaslights happening, right? Some quarrels, some arguments start happening. Some true colors start showing up little by little. And when you start getting on the bed, you start noticing like more problems, more red flags, communication problems, character flaws, right? The way you communicate, right? And the way you try to manipulate or twist facts or situations starts to show up more and more. But initially, like to be honest, like we're so focused on the vision of Capital Club, like we kind of just turned a blind eye to a lot of things because we just thought, okay, partnerships are hard, right? To be absolutely honest, right? It's just like managing a relationship. It's not easy, especially when it comes to like operations, manpower, money, payrolls, and all that stuff. It just gets more complicated, right? So I think as our relationship deepen, as we start having more time and as we start noticing more and more all these small inconsistencies with what he said and who he is as a person, that is when we start noticing like, hey, something's not adding up, right? And honestly, like at my age right now, to be honest, right, Darren, it's why would I want any drama? Like, I have like it's not like I'm desperate for partnerships, right? People would say, "Oh, Steve, you really know his like his his bullshit right from the start. Why would you still partner him and push him so hard?" I was like, dude, if I knew that right from the start, why would I risk my reputation? I have almost a pristine reputation in e-commerce, right? And I'm like, my supporters are, or my people that back me up are not people who are just like starting out in the business. They are industry leaders, business owners, people that have done 8 figures, 9 figures, or probably have a $1 billion company, right? So why would I go risk my reputation or why would I risk anything to kind of work with someone that I knew if I knew this is going to happen, right? So I think it's more about just kind of like going through and discovering inconsistencies. And of course, when everything kind of like blew up, that was never my intention, to be honest.
When you look at the partnership itself, from the outside, it looks like there was an imbalance from the beginning because you had a much higher financial investment, correct? Yourself and Evan both put up a lot of the investment. Why was that?
I wouldn't say we put up a lot more. I think what we did initially was kind of like pretty equal. Then subsequently, like because the company went into cash flow problems right from the beginning.
It's a cash flow business.
Right? Because technically there's no income, right? Because while we're building like the courses, while we're building like all this production, while we're building his personal brand, when we're doing all this distribution, all of these things cost money, right? So we quickly ran into cash flow deficit, right, before we even launch, right? And I think it was just kind of part in my nature to kind of like be really being a really supportive partner, and I just kind of dump in another 100K. Then when 100K runs out, I'll dump in another 150K, right? So, but of course, I extended this all as part of a loan to the company, right? Into the company, which I do expect to get paid later on, right? But when I had a call with like our financial like third party financial advisors, they were like, "Oh my God, like Steve, like why do you do that?" I said, "Yeah, because I pride myself as a good business partner, right?" And when I just brought it up to look, hey, like we ran into cash flow problems, right? I put in this money. He just kind of brushed off. Like I just like it feels a little bit weird because any normal person would really appreciate your partner for doing that, right? And I think he read too much of the book, the what 43 Powers of like what's that book for by Robert?
48 Laws of Power.
Yeah. Which by Robert Greene, right? I think he read too much of that, and he tried to use that on me. Like he doesn't want to show like he's happy or whichever. So I think as the relationship progresses, I realized he's changed a lot. Right. It's kind of like in a boyfriend girlfriend relationship, man. Like it's so yeah. Like it's initially they work so hard to kind of hook you in, right? When you start knowing them better, like all this mass starts revealing truly for who they are.
When you looked at the actual investment and the amount of team that was required and everything, when you tie that back to, as you mentioned before, Luke claimed he's made between 20 and 40 million online. I still struggle to understand why not a lot of that investment came from his side. Because you would think that if you're in that range, that you would put up a lot of investment on your side. Now, I don't know the facts, right? But that's what, just from an observation perspective, which is like part of a partnership, that's who would put in the money.
I think I just want to be absolutely clear. Like a lot of the investment comes from the cash flow from the company, right? So it was reinvested. So we don't really need to fork out a lot more cash flow from either of the partners itself, right? So I think the biggest red flag that we see now, right, given that everything's kind of blowing up right now, is the numbers starts to not make sense. Especially, I think, when he's working really hard to control the narrative of that he has done those numbers, right? So I just want to be absolutely clear. Luke Belmar came to me in the middle of 2018. When he first came to me, he hasn't even started e-commerce, zero. Doesn't even know drop shipping, doesn't even know anything. All he knows was social media marketing, right? Basically trying to pitch, hey, Steve, I can help build your personal brand, right? And of course, I got sucked in with his like charismatic way of like pitching and oh, like, I've done all these brands for personal brands. Let's make you the so-and-so of the e-commerce industry. I got sold, right? I got sold by his sales talk, right? And naturally, we started talking. And this guy initially was all about providing value to me because I wasn't really, I don't really know as much as I know now for personal branding, right? For social media marketing. And I realized at a point of time, after a long time ago, like the followers of my account are not US based. It's all some random third world country. So basically bought it, right? He bought it my followers, but showed, oh, we can grow so fast and whatnot.
How was that backed up? Like, how was that verified, right? Because did you see that behind Social
Analytics,
Blade
yes,
or
yes. No, I think as because last time he was trying to help me manage all that, right? So I only knew, I thought, okay, I just want 100,000. I just want to grow to 100,000 followers, right? So I think he also knew that I don't know anything, and he just kind of capitalized on like that. And eventually, as like we start working with more probably better agencies, and they start noticing, hey, like why are all your followers from like Kazakhstan or somewhere else? So that was kind of like funny, but initially when we started working together with the agency side of things that he claims, and we realized, hey, like when we saw his numbers right now that he's claiming, right? I think probably because like I was posting a lot nowadays. And I was kind of calling him out like, hey, where's your 20 million? Show us the numbers, right? Show us the numbers of you doing $20 million. Show us the numbers of you doing $40 million. And now he's claiming that he has a 9-figure business, right? So I think 40 million comes from like what he claims. Like we have all the videos and proof for that. Like he's claiming 40 million of sales in dropshipping since 2017. But I know better than anyone Like he didn't claim that like a long time ago, but he starts claiming it now because like, he lies so much that he forgets the timelines and the numbers. That's where it gets complicated, right? Because like he doesn't even know what numbers he has done. Or like he just probably got himself convinced. But the funny thing was, when I started exposing him online, a lot of people start coming up forward. His ex-partners, people that worked with him in some context, shape, or form. And there's so much like insider details that I got to discover that made it like, made me so certain that a lot of the things, or if not most of the things that he has shared, his successes and everything are all kind of like smoke and mirrors.
If someone in that instance is like a pathological liar and they have sowed an entire lifetime of lies, like what is happening there under the surface, personally?
I would say he's very insecure as a person, extremely insecure, because if you want to puff up so much, it's because you're insecure. And I noticed firsthand when he was invited to my brother's wedding, where most of my friends are like high net worth individuals of multi nine figures, of course, 8 figures to 9 figures. We have a very strong like inner circle of friends who are really tight friends, very humble, very successful, and have amazing businesses, right? And when Luke and his brother and his wife was invited to my brother's wedding in Singapore, the next day my brother held like a really tight circle of like, only close friends only. And when Luke was there, I think he's trying extremely hard to puff himself up. And that wasn't what I noticed. It was noticed by all my friends. So immediately after the meeting, not meeting, the gathering, 3 of my best friends sent me an essay. Yeah. An essay like, hey, like, be really careful of working with this person. And I was like, they were telling me like, there are egomaniac tendencies, thinking he's always right, thinking he's the one, like he's gonna be the most famous man, and using conspiracy to kind of like, kind of like iron in his like what he thinks is right, name dropping people. And it's all like, I think one of my best friends is extremely grounded person. And we're just kind of looking back, with my best friend. I was like, fuck, bro, like I should have listened to you, right? I think you're so fucking on point, like so on point. Everything that he said was so on point. And in hindsight, like I was telling him, like, why did I still not listen? I think I was kind of like blinded by the trust and the amount of years that I've known Luke Belmar, right? I've known him since 2018, right? So that's kind of like a little over 5 years before we decided to even want to work together. He's been pitching me all these years, but I was like, nah, bro, like no time, no time.
Pitching you Capital Club.
Capital Club, yeah, he's been pitching me all this while. I started with him Capital Club when there's not even a logo. Sure, he might have he have already registered a company, but I still have like, right from day one, there's no logo, there's no company, there's nothing at all.
And sorry, what was the initial idea and mission? Like, what was the actual goal?
I think the vision that really sold me was building the world's largest entrepreneurial network. Like being a center of impact, right? A center of like community and influence for people around the world, especially entrepreneurs. And I felt that was a really cool idea because what I've built in the past was 100,000 people of Facebook group, but just in drop shipping or e-commerce, right? So I think that's kind of like a little bit more niche, right? E-commerce, right? So when he came to me, it's like, oh, bro, let's do something that includes everything, right? There's so many ways of making money online. E-commerce is just one of them, right? And which is why he wanted to partner up because like he knows I have influence, in the e-commerce space. Well, I try to be incognito because I don't really want to be the face anymore, right? So I think the vision really sold me because I really wanted to build something that's beyond myself, like bigger than myself, right? I think something that like we could have an amazing impact on, aspiring entrepreneurs or people who's like, really in the game, wanting to kind of network, get connected with people, all people in the space, right? Because I mean, let's face it, like entrepreneurship is like extremely lonely, right? You want to be surrounded by people of this like-minded mindset. You want to be surrounded by people who's like really doing their absolutely best and grinding and building the businesses, right? So that's kind of like what we kind of like set out to build.
Are you an agency owner, coach, or consultant looking to scale your online business? At Volks, we help business owners scale their online business with content. We help them specifically build a high ticket offer, create content that turns into clients, and also help them with the sales process to make sure every single call that's booked in your calendar turns into a client. If you want to see more about exactly how we do this, hit the first link down below and watch a full free training on how smart entrepreneurs are building a business in 2025.
I think that was achieved though. Like, whatever's happening now is whatever's happening now. But you know, he and you have helped hundreds of thousands of people start and get that first leg up and learn. So like, whatever's happening now is happening now. But I mean, there still has been huge lessons that have provided so much value for people. So have people like Tate, right? The pendulum swings on Tate left, right, and center, depending on what day it is, what the weather is. But he still has helped a lot of people start their first business and make money online. One of them was like even me. Like, I watched some Tate videos and I'm like, fucking hell, I gotta do something else. And it's like, I wouldn't credit absolutely my entire life to it, but what I'm trying to say is like, it's this subconscious things. Now, I know that you said the mission has kind of drifted ever so slightly, but I would give yourself a bit more credit in terms of like what was achieved in that period of time still.
I think honestly, Capital Club is still great, to be honest. The people within it is great. The community is great. It's awesome. But the reason why we wanted to part ways is like, we're not aligned anymore, because I cannot be aligned with someone who's not who he is as a person. So if you use fake successes to sell your success, you're basically like lying, right? And people are looking up to you because you had all the successes. So a lot of people are still kind of blinded, and that's something that I feel extremely sorry about, because like, you're looking up to someone who's not who you think he is, right? For example, you look up to him probably because, oh, he did 40 million in sales, but he didn't do 40 million in sales, right? You look up to him probably because, oh, he crushed Pancake Swap, right? Probably he didn't have a fraction of how much Pancake Swap he has, right? So like, in reality, for me to look up to someone, this guy better has like real substance, right? Not someone who kind of like just use fake stuff and just kind of like, smoke and mirrors. And I think that's something that I cannot accept personally, right? I would never ever follow someone who doesn't have like, who isn't who he claims to be. And that's very important to me, because like, that means the people that you're following are selling you or sharing their values of things that they don't believe themselves. And that to me is a hypocrite.
And things that they haven't done themselves.
Exactly.
Right? Like, you have to have the receipts to back up what you do. As small and as minute as it might be, those are the things that are going to have the biggest influence long term.
Yep, 100%. I think it's scary because like, online and socials allow someone, to pretend or be an imposter and to claim things that they haven't done before so easy, especially when they have clout, when they have attention, right? And we all know there's like more bots than people who kind of see through bullshit, right? So it's very easy to sway like the public, right? Especially when like they have all this like followers, they have all this lifestyle, right? And they're really good.
Can you double tap on the narrative control? Because that approach is what a lot of people are trying to do, is control the narrative. How have you seen that in the good times, as you said, just portraying a specific story, and then also in the bad times where if things aren't going with you, how do you cover up what's coming out?
I think during the good times is like, Luke can be very inspiring. I think that's like, on that front, I think he's done a really good job to inspire people, right? But, if you're trying to inspire people in a way whereby the motive is not true inspiration, but is to let people kind of look up to you and think that you're really successful, I think the motive there is kind of like very inconsistent, right? So, for example, when he was starting out, right, with all this content and try and control narrative is controlled, not really controlled, but it's all by the amount of times that people see your content, right? So let's say if you can have the same content going out like 100 times, if people probably don't really resonate when the first time he sees your content, second time, third time, maybe the fourth content might hit you in some ways or different, like different angle points that you see, oh shit, it resonates with me, right? Maybe fourth time doesn't work. Okay, 6, 7, 8 times, all this different content. Because we have such a big in-house clipping team, all right? We don't even call it a clippers, right? Like, we started the content
This
distribution.
is before it, right?
Yeah. So like we're probably like the second or third people like in the whole industry to kind of like really scale this hard. I think definitely Andrew Tate led the way, but I just want to be transparent here. This whole content distribution, this whole content game has really been out for like years and years in China.
You told me this.
Yeah,
The first time we had a podcast.
It's nothing new. So like I like I speak Mandarin, and I spent significant time in China before, right? So for me to see all these things, I was like, okay, it's nothing new. And I mean, we have scaled massive operations with dropshipping, with our e-commerce. We have managed tens of thousands of accounts for like our e-com, and all that stuff. It's like not that hard for us. So when we wanted to scale Look Belmar with content distribution, I was like, okay, right up our alley. Right, we can manage a lot of accounts for this, and content distribution is basically managing a lot of clippers, right?
Can we double tap on that? So let's take a step back. So you have this idea, you're going to work with Luke or insert anyone, and then you're going to scale the shit out of it. You have a narrative. Did you put together the narrative, and then did you put together the people? Like how do you get that amount of distribution behind a single mission or vision? Because full transparency, you could win an election with this approach, right?
Oh, for sure. I think the objective that we have is make Luke one of the most popular men in the whole world. That was our objective within our OKRs within the company. That's the OKR that I set for the company, right? And that was under the impression that everything would be built under Capital Club Holdings, right? Every potential deal flows, opportunities will be housed under Capital Club, right? And which is why I've decided to kind of like, share my resources, share my personal branding, share my authority in the space with Luke Belmar, right? Because like, it's easy to say, but he's pretty new in the e-commerce space, right? People who know, they know, right? So for him to like collaborate or work with me and my brother gives him easy access to a lot of like, the interviews, like for example, Shopify. I got him the Shopify interviews. I got him the Payoneer interviews. Those are all my personal connections within those companies on brands, right? And it's surprising because a lot of the things I found out that he was sharing with people, it was all his connections, not Steve's connections. And he just tries to kind of like twist things that, oh, it's all about Luke Belmar. It was never about the partnership. It was never about like people behind him. And I'm totally fine with having him take all the spotlight because like that was the choice that I made. But I think when the person that's in front, forgets or doesn't recognize the team that's working with him behind the scenes so hard, then it starts to muddle like our commitment. Like why should we work with someone who's operating like that? I think fundamentally I believe that ego and fame got the better of him.
If you look at all the great like leaders in the past, all the great like empires or anything, it always comes down to this. Isn't it the same factors?
I think it's also God complex, I think I'm not the only one that's saying this. Like, if you do a poll on your podcast, bro, like the amount of people that will come up and share that Luke Belmar has an incredible God complex is
How would you explain that?
definitely think he's always right. He's the chosen one. Like everybody's wrong. Like every conspiracy that he shared is always right. Whatever he shared, he doesn't agree because he would always talk down on people that's actually right and put himself up and name drop people to make himself look, oh wow. He will always if you notice the way he's sharing things, like it's always quoting somebody from like, old times, a philosopher or whichever. Oh, so and so said this, right? And the fact that he always does this to people unknowingly, like unless you're very observant, sometimes you wouldn't really pick up. And if you kind of notice, if you start kind of like breaking up like how he talks, Like, it's actually word salad. He's just trying to repeat some stuff to make himself look like, wow, it sounds smart, right? So recently I've kind of been watching him very closely, right? And the people that's following him, bro, like absolutely nothing against people who's following him, because like I'm the fool myself at a point of time, right? I've gone through, I've drank the Kool-Aid myself. I've gave him my support, I gave him my resources. As a matter of fact, a lot of all those interviews within Capital Club, they're all my network, all my people, right? So it's kind of sad, right? It's kind of sad how things worked out, but I think it's for the better.
Can you walk me through what happened when you planned to exit? Like, what was that feeling? Because you're walking away from something that you've invested a lot of time into, right? How did you feel in that instance, and what happened then?
Honestly, it was heartbreaking. Like, it's very sad. I think we feel extremely betrayed in a lot of ways, right? Because we know the moment we decide to walk away with how Luke Belmar is operating, I don't think we can ever be friends anymore, right? But, it's okay to walk away not as friends, but that's not our intention. Hence why we brought up, hey, we want to leave, and we got gaslighted. Are you jealous? Are you jealous of my success? And I think as a matter of fact, I posted that on like my Twitter post, and I was like, fuck, like they don't even give you the permission to leave. They still want to gaslight you to kind of come back, right? And I think was really sad, but I think what really pushed us forward was like, this is too much. Like, it's too toxic. Like, the whole collaboration is really, really toxic. Like, the way he communicates, the way he disrespects not only me and my brother, but people within the company. The twisting of words is too much. Like, for example, he loves to put words in people's mouth, right? For example, if he's upset with me, he wouldn't come to me and tell me, "Oh, Steve, like, I'm upset at you." He would say, "Oh, so and so within the company is really upset at you." So I was like, it will create confusions, right? Because like I don't know why he does that, but it kind of creates a lot of like weird situations between me and some of our executive team members. Because I'll go confront them. I said, like, Luke said that you were really upset at me for not responding to you. I was like, when did I not respond to you? He's like, no, I've never said that, right? And it's like initially I thought, okay, maybe this employee or this like team member is just lying, right? But as the amount of times this kind of like incident starts getting more and more, it just sounds familiar, yeah. So I think part and parcel of us wanting to leave is because we're no longer aligned with the vision of what we're building here.
You're an investor, and you and your brother have invested in multiple different companies. What made this different in terms of your involvement? Because a lot of times you'll invest in companies and no one will ever see it. You'll write a check and then the rest is magic. But how come you were so involved in this as an investment?
In a way, I think we're very aligned with the vision initially, right? I think there's a lot of potential. And I think part of the reason why is because I love building. I love to build stuff. And I think with Capital Club, the vision is to build the world's largest entrepreneur network. And we've seen a lot of potential with like a lot of organizations, like, entrepreneur organization, EO. We've seen a lot of like Vistage and all these different clubs around the world. And I see there's a lot of tremendous potential, right? Having an amazing impact and having an amazing business model, right? So we're trying to actually build something like the masterclass of Netflix, right? In some ways, for entrepreneurs, right? The masterclass for entrepreneurs, basically, with Capital Club, which is why we invested so much money into production. We invested so much time, curating like the experts, and of course working with people who sees the vision of Capital Club. And I think because when we partner up, I know for a fact that Luke is not going to be an operator and he's not going to be able to build this, right? So which is why it's kind of like it's kind of the perfect scenario for me, because like I don't want to be the face, right? I want to be more behind the scenes because we enjoy building. We enjoy scaling companies behind the scenes, which is why when Luke said, okay, Steve, you guys be like the operators, the CEO behind the scenes. I was like, perfect. You want to be the face? Yeah.
And his involvement was purely like dancing on the internet. There was no back end team support. Like, what was the lines of delineation there?
I think his main accountability in the company is like being the front facing like content. His main KPI is just content, right?
But was the team giving him the content?
We 50-50, I would say, right? He had like Luke likes to free flow. Like if you give him a script, it's very hard for him to follow, right? So which is why it makes it even harder for us to vet his like whatever he's saying online, right? You know, he doesn't play by the books, right? He's kind of like a wild horse.
What's a lesson here, right? Because you are like a charismatic dude. People like you, people love you. It doesn't seem like you needed to do this.
What's the lesson? Wow, great question. I think the biggest lesson is don't be afraid. I think I've done a lot of reflection for this. The part of the reason why I didn't enjoy building my personal brand was probably because I wasn't very authentic online at a point of time. You know, I was trying to kind of go after what's shortcut, right? You know, if you've seen kind of my old videos, right? I think it's really cringy. Like I really like some of our old videos, but that's kind of like a part and parcel of growing, right? So eventually when I don't feel very aligned with whatever I was building online, I wanted to take a step back. I think that was the time where I started reviewing and spending a lot of time with personal development. I think the lesson here is like just be authentic with what you're building. Like, you know, being online and offline, there's no difference, right? And you don't really need to puff yourself up and be inauthentic and trying to like, I think eventually people who preaches kind of fake numbers online, it's gonna all come down. It's all gonna come down because like you're gonna suffer imposter syndrome and you're gonna feel so shitty about yourself and all this bullshit that you're putting online, you know, preaching something that you're not. I think it's the biggest lesson that I've learned seeing this whole process with what Luke went through, when I was building my personal brand and whatnot. Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Because I've obviously met hundreds of people doing this over the past 5 years. When we initially met 2 years ago in Malaysia as well, I couldn't get over about how chill you were. And it's very interesting because even with the content that we were creating, you're very relaxed and obviously you're super successful and so on. And you could be like egotistical, but you weren't. And I remember it was a vivid like experience that I had. I was like, holy shit, like you're super just chill. And that's why it's quite interesting to hear you say that you were inauthentic creating content, because I would have actually said the opposite initially. And I think it's also the hallmark of someone who knows like thyself, is like they're able to sit with themselves and say, okay, well, when I was younger, I was a bit of a dumbass and I was saying things that were just a little bit misaligned, because like that was me when I started. It's kind of like when you don't have any receipts, you have to puff your chest up, and then when you do have the receipts, you slow down and you don't have to basically try as hard.
I think, thanks for that. But I think across the years, what I meant by me being inauthentic was like I was very into materialistic stuff, right? So yeah, like, you know, like I have a car right now, but I don't have a supercar right now, right? But there was a lot of trying to chase for success or to show people you're successful, right? I think there was a lot of like inauthenticity within myself that I'm trying to prove something, right? So I'm trying to prove that I'm successful by having entire, man, it's so fucking cringe when I see my past videos. Like I have a whole wardrobe of shoes I don't even wear right now that's Christian Louboutin, right? Right. And people would remember, oh fuck, Steve was at Affiliate World and he has the most like crazy shoes ever. And I was like, why do I need those attention? Right. And that I when I do a lot more personal development, I realize there was probably a lot to do with my upbringing. Right. Kind of my upbringing. Probably I'm not a popular kid, you know, kind of nerdy, you know, not popular with girls and all that. And you're trying to grab attention when you're successful. Right. So when you start to notice all of that infatuation with all this materialistic stuff, and you also attract the wrong kind of crowd for people who follows you because you have all that stuff. Those are not, now when I realize, please don't fucking follow me because I have all this stuff. You know, I start to realize and I start to see through a lot of like all this metrics or whatever you guys call it, all this bullshit. And like I wear like Uniqlo right now. Like I don't even have like I have like my whole closet are all branded stuff. Right. When I see a lot of those gurus nowadays with all this like cringy like videos and whatnot, I kind of see a reflection because like I've gone through that, and but I'm so glad because of like my personal development and the focus on growing internally, and also my mindset that made me who I am, to kind of like really discover who I truly am, which is why I wasn't really happy doing this kind of content. Oh, here in my Lambo, like I'm driving. Like, no, that's kind of bullshit to me. And I think that's really inauthentic of myself, which is why my mind is telling me like, no, you don't like that. But if you don't dig deeper, you don't really know like why aren't you happy in doing this kind of content. But right now, if you ask me to talk about personal development, I'll be like fucking happy to talk about it because I feel that's the message, and that's the kind of people, right, that I want to attract. And those are the kind of people that I would love to kind of like share my message and kind of share my worldview and share my kind of my learnings and my kind of like lessons and whatnot in life. I think that kind of like really lights me up versus like, oh, guys, like I'm successful. Look at my Lamborghini. Look at like all this stuff. I think that's kind of like really shallow, in my opinion. And I think across all these years, it just kind of got clearer and clearer that that's not who I am as a person, and that's not what I want to be recognized or remembered. Because what I truly want to bring to people is, positive value and impact, right? I think I've gone through so much, and I know life is not easy, right? And I think if like everyone could help make the world a better place in some way, shape, or form, I think, the world would definitely be better in some way, shape, or form.
And it's interesting because that was your initial core idea for Capital Club. It kind of brings it back to the personal development, the wealth side, basically the two of them working side by side.
100%. I think Capital Club's business model is very interesting. I think it's also really nice, to be honest, if we can really stay focused on our vision and not for our short-term gains, right? I think it's more about like, because part of the reason why I partner up with Luke Belmar is because I truly thought he has 40 million, right? And if you work with someone who has truly 40 million in the bank, his vision is very different. The way he upholds or operates is extremely different. Like you can't expect someone who's 40 million and 400,000 to be operating on the same way, for example, right? So let me give you an example, right? The reason why I thought Capital Club would be interesting for me and my brother is because I want this to be a 10-year play. Like 10 years, right? Like for me to get into a partnership and spending so much effort, that's gonna end up like 1-2 years and we're not doing it, it's definitely not worth my time. If someone is at 40 million, that means he's on the 40th floor, right? And someone on the 40th floor seeing the vision or the outlook of the company versus someone who's on maybe the ground floor is extremely different, because on the ground floor, this person is only probably like trying to survive. He needs the money, right? And for people on the 40th floor, all the money that comes in the company would be reinvested in the company to grow the company longer. We're not desperate to do profit sharing or dividends. Honestly, I could care less if we do dividends. I don't even need the 1 cent, right? So the actual story is like when we did the launch, which was okay, right? But we also had like a pretty big team, right? We have huge overheads, we have affiliates that we have to pay and whatnot. And we wanted to continue scaling the company. But when we started launching, somebody started getting a little bit desperate, right? It was like, oh, let's pull out $1.2 million. I was like, okay, sure. Like, if we can pull out money, like, sure. Like, I mean, let's check with financial advisors first, right? Because you don't want to fuck up the company when it's like we're trying to scale or trying to grow, right? So we checked with the financial advisors and they said, no, probably you guys should pull out less. I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. But Luke Bauer said no. He wanted to pull out the $600,000 immediately. And he's like insisting and being like, kind of like being a little bit throwing his tantrum about pulling out the money. And that kind of got a little bit weird initially, because I was like, bro, in my mind, it's really playing in my mind. It's like, bro, like you have 40 million. Why are you talking about 600,000? Right? Even if it's $6 million, like, yeah, it's just like a portion of your portfolio, right? That's like more than, if you're talking about 6 million, sure, it's a different story, right? That's like maybe 12% of your portfolio. But if you're talking about 600,000, that's what, 1%, like I wouldn't be able to understand, right? So he pulled out the $600,000 kind of like in a way that's like a little bit forceful, right? That kind of got, and because he pulled out, which means he told me that I can't pull out until the next launch, because if I pull out right now, there's going to be cash flow issues.
Sorry, so he pulled out
The $600,000 from the
without
company.
the confirmation agreement of everyone?
Yeah.
Or did you agree? Of course, the lines get muddied, right?
Yep. So
But I'm just trying to say is like, if you can't take out cash, is there green light, red light system?
maybe I can ask you this question. You let me know what you think. Right?
Firstly, before you ask me that analogy of the 40th floor is fucking genius, man. It's just so true, because it's the different levels, different devils. Like when you're at the 40th floor, you have a different approach to how you should be playing. And I completely agree. I think it's an amazing analogy.
Thank you. So I think with the $600,000, I questioned him like, why are you? He said, oh, I need to buy a house, right? I was like, yeah, 600,000 is not a lot. What kind of house can you buy, right? I kind of asked him like, I thought you had a $4 million house. I think it rubbed him the wrong way, and he kind of immediately got a little bit defensive. Like, what I do with my personal finance is none of your business. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna ask anymore, right? So when he decided to pull that out, that means I can't pull out the money, right? But when it comes to dividends, it's always being distributed same time based on the equity, right? So he went ahead to pull out knowingly that I wouldn't be able to pull out, so it would just fuck us. And he said, "Oh, you guys can just take the next round." Like, obviously, he's not trying to fuck us over. Don't think so. But it's that kind of ego that thinks that he can operate, telling me what to do. But I was okay, because honestly, I don't really need $600,000. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not desperate for distribution, nor do I need the money at the point of time, right? And that just kind of got us, like, our red flag starts popping. Like, okay, Evan asked me the question, do you think he has 40 million? I say, fuck no, right? And I mean, you don't need 40 million to say, oh, I don't need the 600,000. You probably just need like what, 5 million, 10 million?
It's just so interesting to see like that number of 40 million, because ecom especially, that's nowhere near the profit.
Exactly.
Like arguably, I don't know, you tell me.
Yep.
If it's a supplement brand or something, would you say it's 10%?
10% for drop shipping is kind of pretty realistic, to be honest. In the earlier days, we're looking at 20 to 30% in the earlier days, but he's nowhere close to the earlier days. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Let's just say, sorry, it's 10%. Yeah. And let's just say that was 2020. It's 5 years. That 4 million, that's a stretch for 5 years. But when you're buying RMs and Rolexes and flying first class, that doesn't last long. Right? Because genuinely, it doesn't last long.
Yep.
Which is the reason why you constantly like either need like you have your investing in other businesses and so on. Like, I know it's a lot of money, but I'm saying when you spend in that way, it's not a lot of money.
But I just want to emphasize that 40 million is not sales. It's what he claims to be his net worth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, even if you did claim that, the percentage of the profit of that, minus taxes, minus living expenses, it's because this is interesting, right? Because like, you have a cash flow business, I have a cash flow business, and I have other businesses, but the money that goes into your pocket is often not the money that goes into your pocket, because there's other shit that needs to be done.
Exactly. And the thing here is like, I think he's very smart, right? Like, he knows that like ecom is just a percentage of that. But the reason why he got things confused is, my belief is, he lies so much that he forgets what he's talking anywhere on podcasts or whatever, right? Maybe meanwhile here, oh, I did $20 million. Right here, I did like 30 million. Oh, here, maybe I'm happy. Like, I just want to puff myself up more. Oh, 40 million. Right. So he forgets, is it revenue or is it net worth or like whatever? But I was kind of looking at some of his videos the other day. It's kind of funny. Like, he was saying that, oh, he did ecom, right? He did ecom and he put in all his profits into ETH or whichever, right? And Pancake Swap and all of that add up, and he 40x his net worth from $1 million. Right. So that's like at 40x from crypto. But I was like, hell no, I don't believe you 40x your net worth. You probably 3x your net worth. I'll believe that, right? But to say that you 40x your net worth, like, and you're still operating like that, it's either you're like, you have extremely scarcity mindset, or you're just faking things that you don't have. Because a lot of things are not adding up. His numbers, his success, like the things that he said he's done before, right? I can challenge him, like, to be honest, even on this podcast, like, show us any one successful business that you have built before that has substantial revenue before Capital Club. Nothing. He claims that he has done all these things. Show us the numbers. You don't even show don't even show us the don't you don't have to even show us the store. Show us the screenshots, right? Show us some videos of revenues, right? And the funny thing here is, like, people are coming up to me to tell me, like, a lot of those screenshots that he's posting is not his. I think that's the only thing that I discovered recently. I don't even know. I was blind. I was like, because he shot me those amazing testimonials, like, "Hey Steve, thank you so much. I wouldn't be who I am today without your help." Right. And I was like, "Oh fuck, congrats. So happy for you. Like, I'm so glad that my mastermind, or the information that we've been sharing with you, you took action on it, you crushed it. I have I have like multiple, like 44 or 5 different testimonials from Belmar that's sharing about his success, and I have all the timestamps. So how do you say that you started your ecom and you did 40 million since 2017 when you're not even in the space? So that's the thing that I'm not okay with. I see the benefits of people being inspired by him, right? I think that's great. But if you're inspired by people who use fake numbers or things or numbers or things or materialistic stuff to kind of lure you in believing he's almighty, he's like, oh, like, I'm all successful, I'm all grounded, I'm all humble, I'm man of God, I think that's really wrong.
Do you think that angle of maybe God, religion, was taken as an example to almost like masquerade his actual beliefs?
100%. I think it's very intentional. Like, he knows for a fact that using religion is the highest level. Like, it's kind of like how, like, a lot of fake preachers or pastors do it, right? There's definitely good ones, but a lot of people abuse the power of using religion. Religion is always great. Like, I'm a free thinker. Like, I don't have a religion, but I believe in God and I believe in in the universe, right? But I cannot accept anyone, matter of fact, especially in my ex-business partners, to use that to paint a picture of who he's not.
It's like being in a relationship, telling people that you're not going after girls because you're in a relationship, but only being in a relationship because you're going after other girls. It's just like, it's using something, external thing, as a safety net for deceit. Just in general, when that's used in that regard, because I've seen that exact example in this space happen several times. And one of my friends, Cardinal, he said it's almost like a cycle, like fake numbers, fake screenshots, fake Rolexes, rented cars, lost the money. Oh fuck! Actually, I don't believe in money. I've converted, and I'm completely against all of that. And it's like this massive spectrum. Why though? Like, why? Why do you need to go to that level to do this stuff? Why not do what you did, which is just build a business, get on with it?
I think it's part of growth journey, like, Darren. I think it's part of growth, right? Everyone who has success, especially fast success, would be puffed up extremely a lot, right? It's not only in this industry, anywhere, right? If someone's young, like, very, like, successful, like, in short period of time, what happens is usually, like, catastrophic, right? Because, like, if they don't recalibrate themselves fast enough, ego is the enemy, right? Ego is the metrics, in my opinion, personal opinion, because you're so blinded. You're living inside your own ego. You can't listen to opinions. You can't take feedback. You think you're always right. If you think you're always right, that means you're on the extreme spectrum of, like, black and white, right? We all know life is balance, like, black and white. There's benefits, there's also drawbacks, equal and opposite of drawbacks, right? So one observation that I have with Luke is extremely polarized, right? And usually when people are extremely polarized, um, it's either black or white. That's kind of like a pretty common trait for bipolar, right? Because they only see things this way in the massive spectrum, right? On things. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say here is if you think you're always right, you wouldn't be able to take any feedback because everybody's wrong except yourself, right? I called him a dictator. I was like, why be in a partnership? Like when everything, whatever you say, you have the final say. I said, hey, we're business partners in this. Like I don't own less shares than you in the company.
Is it true that you were basically locked out of Kappa Club?
I was just posting a few screenshots the other day. I tried logging into my email one day, and account is suspended. So what happened was initially, like I was super admin for everything, right? Super admin for everything because
The CEO.
I'm the CEO and I handle all the operational stuff, all the heavy lifting and whatnot. So initially, I discovered somebody changed my super admin access, which the only person that can do it is the other super admin, which is his wife, right? So it was a little bit suspicious because at a point of time, we're still negotiating, like kind of the buyout, right? And then I realized that my access, like because we kind of share access, all like for example, we have shared access to like for example our domain Namecheap, right? And we both have access to the two FAs and whatnot. So either party can log in anytime at any point. That's kind of like the trust that we kind of build within the company, right? But you wouldn't expect someone during the part of negotiation to start locking you out secretly. And because when I received the email that I was being shifted from super admin to like a normal admin, you receive a notification by email. So I went back and changed it back. Right, I went back and changed it back. So Luke Belmar shoot me an email message like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I was like, What do you mean?" He said, "Oh, you trying to lock us out?" I was like, "No, I'm just trying to change back what was originally the settings." So he went on and emailed the lawyers. It's like, oh, trying to kind of like cry wolf, like trying to say, "Oh, the wolf is coming," but in reality, he's the ones that actually doing all these things. And he's telling, he sent an email to the lawyers like, "Oh, Steve locked us out. Like, oh, like we aren't able to continue our operations. Like, and trying to act like he's all the victim." I was like, firstly, you don't need super admin to be able to run the company, right? Things are all as it is. And my message to him was like, bro, let's follow the process, right? The natural business process was we signed the agreement, we signed the buyout, we transfer everything to you, right? That's part of the agreement, right? And he started calling me names, start calling me Pinocchio. Oh, you're a liar. Like, oh, you just admit that you lied and everything. Like you said you're gonna transfer. I was like, no, like because I said the way that you're operating doesn't make me feel safe in transferring things over to you. Because like, so in good faith, like to be honest, right? After this whole saga, I was doing a lot of healing. Like I was trying very hard to heal from all this thing, right? So I healed myself, I think, to a portion of like 80, 90%. I'm good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling grateful. I'm feeling loved. All this happens for a reason, blah, blah, blah. I bought a gift to Luke when he came to Singapore. Like, hey, bro, like, appreciate you. Like, let's just get things wrapped up and everything. So my brother was like questioning me, my decision. Like, oh, like, are you sure? Like, you sure we can trust Luke and transfer things over to him? I said, yeah, in good faith. I don't think he will fuck us up, right? So we started transferring like maybe the 10 softwares that we use, maybe our payment processor, our CRM, our checkout like softwares. Next thing we realized, we're all fucking kicked out of even a user. And I was like, bro, like what's going on? He said, oh, you don't need it. You're leaving. You don't need it. I was like, no, like we haven't even signed anything yet. Like, we did that in good faith. He said, no, oh, no, I own the company. Like, that's supposed to be mine. Kind of like a tyrant in some ways. So it's very hard to communicate with this guy because he's so egoistic. You know, like, I've tried my best to be as, like, you know, like, avoiding conflicts from time, you know, trying to dodge his, like, bullshit. But it just gets too much, right? So our communication broke down when, after he came to Malaysia, we agreed on the buyout number, right? Which is $1.2 million as listed in the lawsuit, right? 1.2 million for me and my brother's time, full time for 2 years. Fuck, bro. Like, it couldn't even like pay for my living expense,
It's not a lot, right?
right? And
Between two people.
right, between two people
Before tax.
like, right, right. And we agreed because I just want to get the fuck out. Like, bro, like, it's so toxic. Just pay me something. All right, whatever. Just pay me, all right? Okay, so we agreed, right? 2 weeks later, what happened was we received a term sheet from his lawyers. All right, Steve. All right, we're going to buy you up, blah, 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 all the terms. Okay, here's 250 names. Maybe your name is inside. I'm not sure. 250 names, non-compete, bro. He sent me a term sheet with 250 names for non-compete. Plus, Iman Ghazi's, all those people are inside. Iman Ghazi, Grant Cardone, all the bigger names in the space, right? Gary Brecka, everyone's in there, right?
But to do what though?
Oh, I can't work with them in any context, shape, or form, right? Okay, and that's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing was you cannot work with any creator who's below the age of 40. Blanket ban. Oh, you can't do info, you can't do masterminds, you can't do courses. No, none of that shit. I was like, bro, you're trying to what? Like,
you're gonna go work at a school.
yeah. I was like, are you crazy? But that's when I discovered this guy is no longer my friend. He's out to fuck me over, especially when I started transferring things over to him. That's when communication broke down, right? That's when we started not talking about it, right? It was pretty sad, to be honest, like, because there was a time we got fucked the second time, right? The first time was like, you know, in good faith, we started transferring things, right? And then after which, like, communication broke down for a few months. I think that was around January, right? I think I spoke about this, right?
Would you have been actively trying to resolve this during that period of time? Because a few months to me, I'd pull my hair out.
No, not really, because I at the point of time I was really like trying to lawyer up at the point of time, because I think this is going nowhere with this person, right? With how he's operating, and yeah, I just pull out $1 million from my bank account and just park it there. It's ready for legal stuff. Like, because I felt like I don't really want to put in any more headspace into this thing, and I think I've been pretty quiet about this whole, like, you know, because I don't think the community needs to like really get dragged into this whole drama because they're innocent, right? The community is still there, like, it's still like people are doing well, but the moment I've received so much DMs from people, like, they were saying, like, Steve, like, the moment we discovered you're missing, like, that's when the whole community starts going downhill.
And since then, recently I've seen that there was a post made by Luke in Capital Club that it's free. That the renewals, they're not paying for the renewals.
Guess what?
What?
Because they're gonna charge for a new community.
And then that's the break off from there.
I'm not sure what he's up to, bro, but
Because if you looked at Gem Hunters, wasn't like 80%. The claim is that 80% of the attribution of users came from Capital Club. And the other mention was roughly 10 to 15 million in revenue generated.
based on how much he's charging, I would assume, yes, that's kind of like what we're alleging in the lawsuit.
But if you think about it, you guys, I know you did like a launch of like 4 million, but do you know roughly, well, you probably do know can you disclose the numbers you were hitting with Capital Club?
I think 4 million was kind of like when during the initial launch, and subsequently we did probably like 1 or 2 more, like 7-figure launches subsequently. So I think,
but it's a membership model though, right? So it was month over month.
yes. So we only do annual subscriptions, so we don't do like monthly subscriptions, right? That's kind of like what we decided to do so. But I think what's alarming was he hired a team of like sales closers that basically DM'd everybody, like, you know, like from Capital Club, from the Discord or whatsoever, to kind of like join gem hunters, right? But looking back right now, to be honest, like I was kind of sharing with a friend, like I'm so fucking grateful that we're cut out from gem hunters, because gem hunters right now, like, it's a mess. Like the amount of DMs that I received from the people that joined from gem hunters is crazy.
Is that legal to give people suggestions of what to buy?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the legal stuff on that front
No,
for
but
him.
just in general, like when it comes down to like crypto and so on,
I think
or
for,
even like
I
stocks,
think for
right?
crypto is a little bit wild west. Like there's just so many people doing
But
it.
dude, it's been going around for so long,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like,
But
and
it-
there are like regulators that
yes,
have,
for sure.
or even like Coinbase and shit. Like getting on those platforms these days is a lot more difficult than when you were a kid.
But I think that's where God complex comes in, because like he thinks he's above the law. He will say things like, "Oh, fuck the SEC" and all that kind of stuff on his Twitter. I was like, okay, sure. I don't want no part in that. You know, so the reason why I say God complex is because like you think you're above the law. You think you're the one. Like you think God is always protecting you. Like, but the thing here is like, no, that's not true. Like when it gets to a point, whereby you disregard whatever is like true just because you think that you are right, that's like, you know, a really big red flag.
Yeah, something that I've seen a lot, just in people that are like super narcissistic, is that even when the truth is portrayed to them, like they might have made a mistake, and it's like, no, sorry, man, like it's actually like this. They will then become resentful and frustrated at that fact that they were also wrong. So like they're in their worldview, apologies, they're correct. And when you try to correct the behavior, they take more of a negative reaction because their worldview is not correct, even though it's actually like logically, legitimately incorrect. So when you're coming up to when you're coming up against the SEC or whatever, that's where this becomes destructive in that regard, right? Because it's not opinion.
I think it's crazy when you're like trying to pitch a meme coin and you associate yourself with fuck the SEC publicly on your X profile. I think that's really dumb. That's really dumb. Like, you know, like how egoistic are you to kind of like say things like that? Like to kind of publicly tell people like fuck the SEC. Oh, come on. Like SEC is the authority here, right? It's kind of like what keeps the country safe, like with all this regulatory stuff, right? To openly can like challenge that. Like we have the screenshots for all that stuff. Like probably he tries to delete it, but the internet never forgets, right? And kind of looking back with all this, as I mentioned to you, for Luke personally, what I honestly believe is like money, fame, and ego corrupted him. I think that's the TLDR, you know, with everything. You know, like people were asking, do you believe Luke was like that right from the beginning? I probably say I'm not sure. I wouldn't say like he's not, because of like everything that I've discovered is just so fake, right? You know, he could be one side is like, oh, I love you, bro, like, you know, like we're gonna make this work, and behind the scenes starts like stabbing you in the back, you know, like and recently when I posted, before I went to Maldives, right? Honestly, I wasn't planning to deal with all this bullshit. I'll swear on my life, I was not even planning to come public about this. You know, like the lawsuit has been filed, it's in progress and whatnot, right? Let me share with you why we came out. Okay. So on the day that I was going to Maldives, that morning, my best friend, my best friend, sent me a screenshot of the Belmar story because he blocked me. I can't see shit, right? So he was talking about, oh, man of God, purity, or being like, oh, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure you know that, right? That post triggered the fuck out of me. And I posted something on my story. And that story actually went viral. Like in some ways, we got like what 50,000 people seeing it or so. I'm not sure. Like it's just a lot of people saw that. For NIG, that's kind of like incognito. I don't really post much these days, right? Suddenly, someone popped up. Guess who? Luke Belmar. Unblocked me from IG, followed me on IG, and sent me, tried to love bomb me. It's like, oh, I love you, bro. Like, I wish we didn't have to do this, like, metrics legal bullshit. You know, text me anytime. And heart shape emoji. I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck you sending me this, right? We're not even talking, right? Sounds cringy. But I think that's what I noticed a lot of narcissists love doing it, right? They try to love bomb you to show you, to try to get you on the soft side. 30 minutes later, I'm sure you saw, like, I think you saw, like, you were asking me about that screenshot. That came 30 minutes after he sent me that message. Like, and he was like, oh, I'm entering litigation with Steve. Like, it's kind of like trying to portray that he's trying to sue me, right? He's like, oh, like, I'm suing him for, like, wire fraud. I'm suing him for, like, destroying the business or whatever, right? And I was like, hold on. Like, I was thinking, like, hold the fuck up, right? That's not true. I'm suing you, right? Stop trying to paint the picture that you're entering litigation and trying to destroy the business. No. Like, if I was trying to destroy business, I would already came out 1 year ago, right? So he's trying to portray that, and he broadcast it to, like, the entire CC community. He broadcast it to, like, people that attended the mastermind and whatnot. I was like, and I have a lot of people who's on my side, right? Like, even though I've been quiet and all that, people was like, whoa, like, Steve, like, what's this? Like, it was like, doesn't sound right. I was like, oh shit. That's when I decided to post, like, hey, hold on a minute. I posted on X. Hold on a minute. Here's the lawsuit. I'm suing you. I'm suing you, your wife, and Capital Club. It's not the other way around. If you're suing me, okay, so be it. You know, you want to sue me? But he loves to twist narrative and twist words to believe people, to let people believe, oh, Steve is wrong, right? So that is how everything started. You know, honestly, like, Maldives is so beautiful. I was staying at St. Regis. Bro, I was there for like 6 days. There's only one day I spent time with my friends. Because out of this 5 days, I was dealing with this bullshit.
We were chatting back and forth, and I was like, I'll come see you. And you were like, no, not today, man. You were like, I'll see you.
It'll be an amazing, beautiful place
Yeah,
to
you were
do.
like, not this moment.
That's kind of how it all got started, you know?
What do you want as the solution to this? Like, if you were looking at, like, what's the perfect scenario from here, what would that look like for you?
I think he definitely needs to publicly apologize for everything that he has done to me and the community. I think he owes the community an apology, to be honest, right? He claims that he was always there for the community. No, he was never there. Like, you know, he was never there. He was all about the money, right? He was all about, like, he claims that he's not about the money, but he was never showing up for the community that believes in him. He's the face, right? You know, as much as I'm running the show, I'm there, but you know, all this, like, younger kids, Gen Z people, they don't care about how much, like, substance you have. They just think, oh, look, Belmar. You know what I mean? He's like the superstar, right? But people who know, they know. If you know, you know, right? Like, so it's like, you know, people who are truly there for learnings, you know, like, I got a lot of DMs, like, people telling me, like, hey, Steve, you're absolutely right. Like, you know, ever since you disappeared from Discord, I was removed. I was removed from Discord. I was removed from Slack, emails, everything. They're just trying to erase me from, like, I've never existed before, right? So, but people know, people remember, like, because, like, you know, when I was there, bro, like, I do as much as possible to show up for the community, right? In any way, shape, or form, like Discord lives, answering questions. I don't have to, because Luke's the face. He's the one that's supposed to manage the community. But I realized this guy is just so distracted. So distracted with what? With, like, trying to make an extra buck, you know, trading meme coins, you know, trying to, like, you know, capture deals that are not part of Capital Club, you know, trying to pocket deals that goes to him because of all the fame that Capital Club has built for him, right? Using the money to build his lifestyle. We paid for everything, right? And honestly, I could care less if we paid for everything, if everything was kind of like on aligned with the vision for long term, right? If you're still committing to helping the community and committed to build this out for long term, not trying to launch all these bullshit site communities like Gem Hunters or Ecom Society, trying to milk the community. I've worked so hard to build your brand up, and I just can't stand that you're trying to milk every single dollar off people on your bullshit. That's kind of what I really don't stand for. We're building it so hard to maintain everything, right? To build the community, to build events, meetups, and whatnot. Then he's using this to funnel people all. It's kind of like, I'm just doing things for free for him, right? That is honestly not the problem. The problem is like you're funneling to people to your side projects, which is very poorly ran with bad or like malicious bad intentions. Exit liquidity. Look at how many people got fucked with Gem Hunters.
Can you walk me through that? And how does that operate for people that want to understand?
What I was told, and through my investigations, a lot of people has to pay 1 ETH to join Gem Hunters, right? So it's kind of like a signal. It's kind of like a crypto signal group. Oh, buy this, right? You could make 2x, 3x from forex, right? Obviously, a lot of people that's joining this loves fast money, right? Who doesn't love fast money with crypto, right? So, I mean, if you have good deals, right, there's ways to invest without getting wrecked like this. To be honest, because if you have such a strong community and you bring on really good projects like ICOs, all right, like projects that has like a really good roadmap and not just always pump and dump kind of like meme coin shit, right? And a lot of people trust him, so a lot of people join from Capital Club. And what they realized was it was just ran so poorly. Like people that are giving like advice or trade calls, they're all like amateurs, right? People lose their entire portfolios. There's like, I have so much proof. I have so much DMs. And which is what made me so much more calm right now. It's like, oh, fuck no. Like even if you made like 50 million, I want no fucking part in this. Because right now, like with what I'm seeing, that's a ticking time bomb, right? A ticking time bomb to destroying your entire reputation that you've worked so hard to build. And people are already coming forward. And the thing here is like, I think I'm the vessel, right? I'm the vessel for people who has a lot of grievances, right? People that has no platform, no voice, no authority. They have no IG, they have no socials, but they have been scammed or they have been ripped off or they feel scammed, right? They personally feel that they have been ripped off or they basically felt that they were exit liquidity. So what it probably sometimes might potentially happens was like, look, probably, right? I'm just like, but that is how things work because I kind of know, right? So what happens is all these meme coins, they will find people who are influential, like or have a huge following, like for example, Luke Belmar, right? He'll come to look like, hey, look, I'll give you X amount of tokens or maybe a few percentage of our entire circulation, right? And people that's running meme coins, there are good ones, there are bad ones. But I think the bad ones probably has more probability than the good ones, right? In a way, what I'm saying is like people probably would care more about like, just fast money, right? They don't really care about building the community for long term. They don't really care, right? So they would usually not lock the tokens for long. So like the KOLs can actually just dump it immediately. So what most likely would happen, right, was Luke would go into Gem Hunters, which he has, like all these recordings that people have been sending me are kind of like priceless. It's like he'll go in and talk about, oh, this token is so good, like why he's investing in it. Here's the analysis of what's going on. And the people that bought into the 1 ETH into his community would see this like, oh, fuck, this is like a trade call from heaven. We're going to make 10x from this shit. I'm going to put in 50K into it. Obviously, people will say, oh, it's their responsibility to invest. But you're telling people to buy in. The moment people buy in, you sell your shit.
It's consistency bias. They have to buy it. Otherwise, they're not congruent with the initial purchase of joining the program.
Exactly. So, like, Honestly, this is outside my control. Like, I could not control whatever he says, does, or do outside of Capital Club. Even in Capital Club, I can't control or like tell him what to say, right? He's just gonna wall horse. But right now, with what's happening, honestly, Gem Hunter is none of my business, right? But like the amount of people that's messaging me every single day, right, is just fucking ridiculous. Like how much people are upset with that. Capital Club, honestly, I think it's still okay. People were just upset that they paid and there's nothing that happened for 1 year, which is at the moment that I've left, right? So there was nothing going on the moment I left the company, right? So people were kind of like noticing it. People are kind of like, but people who's kind of speaking up within the community, banned, blocked. Even they paid, they removed, right? So like the whole community starts to become an echo chamber of only yes men, right? Oh, look, Belmar, yeah, and but when they start seeing my message, everyone starts standing up, like, fuck, bro, like, yeah.
And the thing with this is, like, a low ticket community is tough enough to crack as it is, and you're gonna have a ton of churn. And I guess that's why you have annual subscriptions and annual memberships. But forget about paying; just keeping the actual equilibrium of the community is already tough enough as it is. But if you don't work on it, like, there's gonna be just kind of a pendulum. So as you've got mad attention over the years, that pendulum will swing back and it's going to really impact. Now, obviously, your brand is really strong and you've spoke very publicly on your stance and your opinion, but that would usually fuck the owners. It would usually hit them pretty hard.
Yep, I agree. I think what's important here is for people to understand what's going on behind the scenes, right? So people who are smart could naturally interpret the situation. Like, I'm not here to kind of bash like who's right, who's wrong. I'm not here to kind of like say, oh, we built up Luke Belmar or whichever. I'm just here to kind of share my part of the story from my perspective on what really was going on behind the scenes. How I was kind of like forced out of the company when I decided to kind of wanted to leave. And the thing here is, like, I wanted to leave, as I mentioned, was because the vision was no longer aligned, because we saw like what he preached was all about Capital Club. What was for like 10 years, what we were trying to build for the community for 10 years, turns out to be like a cash grab, right? A cash grab into his own pockets for all these things. Like, like him taking money into his own things is not exactly the worst part. The worst part is building out shitty products, right? That's not congruent with who you say you are and what you said about entrepreneurship and the community. That's, like, to me, it's a big no-no.
Looking at your future, what do you want to do now?
Not sure yet, to be honest, but I'm feeling better than ever, to be honest, because like I've received so much support from this online drama, and like this whole Maldives trip couldn't be better at the right time. Being in a beautiful place, I received easily thousands of messages from people, right? I was like sleeping 2 hours, 3 hours every single day, because I just want to reply to everybody. I just want to reply to everybody who kind of extended their support, share their grievances, share how they got like cheated and whatnot and all these things. And I just realized that, wow, like the industry has my back, and it's just an affirmation to the high values that I've stood up for, like integrity, brotherhood, friendship, loyalty, like kind of those are like high on my values. And to see people that I haven't spoke to see industry like KOLs, like opinions of like what they think of who I am as a person, like really helps energize me in a really positive way, right? So I feel extremely humbled, extremely grateful for like the things that I've done across the years. 100% I'm not perfect. I'm still human, right? I made mistakes, I get emotionally at times, or I make bad decisions and whatnot. But I think I'm still proud of like how I uphold myself as an individual, right? At the end of the day, we come and go. Like, no amount of money is like, going to prevent you from dying, right? So I think, just seeing how people speak of me, like publicly, because I did a post on X, right? I was like, oh, if you work with me, in some way, shape, or form, like or like you came to my either my programs or like or whichever, right? Please share what you think about me. Like I'm not here to ask you to kind of sugarcoat, like to just say good things. If I'm a shitty person, just say I'm a shitty person. And fuck, I've the amount of reviews I've read through, like few hundred of them, is like fuck, they're all just like it just blows my mind. Like I'm just extremely grateful, and I felt like yeah, like authenticity plays its place. Probably not. It's not like I need it at the point of time, but when you need it and you needed support, people will come. Yeah. So that's kind of like when I felt like extremely, extremely grateful for all the trust that people have in me and how they see the values that I spoke highly of. Yeah.
Do you think now it's time that you build your brand on the front and you take the front in terms of the next business?
So I have a friend I don't want to share his name because it's kind of private, but he owns $1 billion like extremely popular exchange. And he just said it in my face without sugarcoating. He was like, "You're just fucking lazy, Steve. You're just fucking lazy to build your personal brand. That is why you decided to build somebody else's personal brand," which is kind of true, like. And I was just kind of digging and reflecting, and I just realized, yeah, fuck yeah. Like, you take accountability for things that you don't want to do, right? And I said, oh no, I said, I'm not lazy. I just kind of want to chill, right? Like, it's not that I really needed, like, to build, right? And he said something like, no, you're not chill. You're just waiting for the right opportunity to go all in. I was like, okay, well, pretty on point, right? So I realized this might be just all a blessing in disguise. All these years from behind the scenes is just preparing me for who I truly am as a person, who I want, what kind of message I want to convey, what kind of branding I want to build, right? And I see how this few years of progress and training actually shapes up the clarity that I have now, right? Even though I'm going through all this drama, like it's actually extremely, extremely draining mentally, emotionally, and physically, right? But I'm so surprised that I feel so great, like every single day, like for the last week after I got clarity with things that I'm gonna do. And yeah, I think I'm ready to kind of rebuild my personal brand, rebuild in a way whereby I'm ready to come out of my shell, right? I was kind of like in the shell, like a hermit crab, kind of like, life's great. Like, to be honest, life's great. Not a lot of stress. Actually, I love stress in some ways. Like, kind of like a motherfucker in some ways. Like, I just kind of like want to put in some stress in my life. But yeah, it's kind of like when you get more clarity, I'm just more inspired because I feel like, oh, like for example, I would love to kind of pick your brains on how do we do my podcasts. Like I've seen a lot of like people like doing amazing jobs with podcasts, like Diary of a CEO and all these different things. And I feel I would love to put my message out there, right? And the great thing about whatever I want to do is like the priority is not the money. How great is that? Is how great is building something when you don't have to fucking worry about money because like money is really taken care of by some other business and you're just trying to do this because it's fun for you, right? Trying to like when I see like when I posted my old screenshots, like I receive messages like people would tell me like, Steve, you're the inspiration, you're the reason why I started ecom. And there are some people, there are like big brands that are doing like 8-9 figures. That's like, hey, bro, like, like because of your fucking screenshot back then, like that really got me like, like started with everything. And I was like, those are things that you can't buy with money. You can't buy that kind of like, things. But I think fundamentally you need to be grounded. You cannot like because of people's, oh, wow, you do that and you become so egoistic or like not humble anymore. I think that's against the point of like having massive impact.
It's a full circle moment. It's like you've made the money, you've tried to help other people within the business, and now it's ultimately about you and actually the lessons that you want to leave behind, man. right? Because like you got to the point now whereby you've been investing in so much other people. You don't need to do this shit. But that's the reason why it will work. That's the thing. It's like because it's not a need, it's a want. That's when it's going to have the biggest impact. If you're in this period of time where you're like, oh, I need the money, I need the work, I need to get the payout. No shit, it's not going to work out, man. You know, no shit. And I think just getting to know like your personality, like your values, it's very clear why you have like a magnetic brand. It just goes down to like what you want to share, you know?
Yeah, definitely 100%. I think you're very on point on this. And I think one of the things that kind of like it's kind of like there's a term called ikigai, right? So it's when like definitely not running it as a charity because like that you need to be compensated in ways, but you want to do things that's you're passionate about, right? And things that can help the world or help people in different ways. Yet at the same time, people value your time and things, then compensate you. It kind of goes for a circle. So I think I've been trying to find, but I think it's still a journey for me, to be honest. I think now it's kind of a little bit early. I still exactly don't know what I want to do in terms of like the next steps, but I still have my other businesses, right? So I just want to kind of see, I kind of really enjoy having a community, right? I think that's kind of like interesting for me, like when I was building out Economy Leads Mastermind many, many years ago, right? But I think things just kind of got busy at the point, and I think we weren't really experienced in running a community. We don't know how much time and whatnot. But I feel like there's two parts to the community. I think one, mass market, right? For people that really do not have much to kind of like start. I think a place to go to would be great. And I think the other one would be like for higher level people, right? Higher people level in terms of, okay, minimum doing at least 7 figures of revenue at least per year or whichever to kind of come into the club or whichever. I haven't kind of really identified yet, but I want to build it as how I see would be the most beneficial for my members. Because like in the past, a lot of the ideas that I've shared with Luke, right? He would just take it and just share with people like it's his idea, which is totally fine because he's the front, right? But I've started to notice that he may seem extremely smart, but a lot of things that he's preaching online was kind of like either from like other people or from us, right? For example, he'll be telling people, "Oh, we're doing a few 100 million views per month." I was like, but most people say we don't even see Luke Belmar shit anymore online, like especially after we left. When we left, the entire distribution team within Capital Club all quit.
That's interesting because I actually haven't seen his content on, let's say, the discovery feed of Instagram.
Exactly, because there's no one running his shit anymore, like us. My brother handles entirely his stuff. So when he comes in, takes over everything, like with his team members who's highly unqualified for the job, everyone starts quitting. Everyone feels like shit. Like one of the things one of my employees told me, I said, "Look, why do you want to quit?" It's like he said, "Why do I want to be on a plane with a pilot that doesn't know how to fly a plane?" That kind of like shocked me. I was like, "Shit, I didn't see it that way."
Leading a company and running a company, is wildly misunderstood because a big part about it is being the aspirational leader. Like you need to be someone that the visionary that people look up to. And it's ironic because running my own company meetings, I'm actually more nervous than running any sort of client meeting or any mastermind, any event, because you need your clan and your team to literally be behind your mission. So if you can't fly the fucking plane, well, no wonder everyone pulls the ejector seat. And it's like it's just something that's wildly misunderstood. And like that is true leadership, right? Is understanding not only like where are we going, but also like what do people need, right? There's a lot of people will work with you not for the money.
Exactly.
The lessons, the insights, that's a huge component that I just think in this, I call it the cowboy coaching industry, like because it's just, as you say, Wild West, whether it's crypto or coaching, but it's wildly misunderstood and underestimated because people aren't natural born leaders. Therefore, they're not trying to lead a team. They're trying to make money. And that's the whole downfall of the industry.
Yep. I think personally, I feel there's times that you need to be patient, you know, good things takes time to build. Rome is not built in one day, right? I mean, that's kind of like what people have been saying, right? But I think sometimes when you are you eagerly want it too much, right? In a sense whereby it gets to a point whereby you want to take shortcuts rather than building it the right way. I think that's when like the house of cards starts getting wobbly, right? So, which is why it brought me back to the same point. If you're looking at things from a 40th floor and a ground floor, the way you operate, the way you make decisions, the way you uphold yourself is definitely very different from someone who claims to be, which is why it reaffirms my beliefs that a lot of the things that he has shared or portrays to be is not who he is to be, right? But that's not my responsibility for this person, because like how he upholds himself is his responsibility. What I'm trying to share here is like I honestly do not want people to experience what I've experienced because it's fucking painful, right? It sucks, right? Or to look up to someone to realize that he's not who he is. For example, right? I know a lot of young kids, especially like in those like crypto or like ecom, and it's funny for me to see because like a lot of them are doing way better than Luke Belmar, but they worship him like, oh, he's the god, like he's the shit, right? So I wonder what happens when the fantasy is broken. Like you looked up to someone who you're already doing better than him, right? But this person acts like, he's all like almighty, like, and it's because of manipulation, right? And it's also because of how he speaks, how he keeps his persona and whatnot. It's just funny to watch. Like, yeah.
The irony is you want your students to actually surpass you. You want them to eventually look back and be like, Steve taught me this, and now I've gone off and I've flown on my own wings. That's a beautiful part of it. But yeah, man, I want to say a big thank you. You're a legend. This was super, super valuable for people. So many lessons, dude, just in terms of just general awareness, leadership, responsibility, and kind of backing yourself. I think a big central theme I've seen from this is like, you can back yourself a lot more. A lot of people can. You don't need dependencies a lot of times. And I often think sometimes that people don't need business partners. They need better friends,
I agree.
And yeah, man, big thank you.
Thanks for having me, Darren. It was a pleasure. Thank you.